I'm not convinced I know how to read. I've just memorized a lot of words.
The first rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
True. All life ends in death, which we, as a species, are cursed with knowing, resulting in something. Again, this is really not my field.
It's the Al Travis Show, and I'm very excited to have John on with us. John is the president of the American Experiment. He is John Hinderaker. John, I like kissing up to a client as much as anybody, but I got to give you kudos. This week, and I don't know, one of the emails that I had, and I think he was Phelan, right? Yeah, John. He put out a little article thing, because we've been talking about this gerrymandering down in Texas. You know, everybody's all up in arms. I want to talk to you about it. But comes out with this article that, did he come up with this formula? He comes up with this thing, and I'm trust me, I'm not going to even be able to read through it. Twice the derivative of 1 times the tax and all that. Anyway, he comes up with this thing at a table of who gerrymanders the most by state. Now, I'm one who will eat my dessert if it's on the plate before I get to anything else. It's the kind of guy I am. So I start scouring for Minnesota. We're at the bottom. Not bottom bad, bottom good. Minnesota, 50.2% of the people are Democrats. 50% of the seats are there, so it's a 0.2 difference. John, Minnesota's doing pretty good, and I wouldn't even know that had you not written the article, or your company. Nice job.
So John Phelan is an economist, which means that he understands mathematics. And he devised, it's actually a pretty simple formula. What it does is it simply measures how different your representation in Congress, in the House of Representatives, is compared to the vote totals cast in the last election for the two parties. And so how much deviation is there? Well, in most states there's going to be a little bit of deviation, but in some states there's a lot. In some states, like Illinois, for example. Illinois has got 21 seats in the House, 18 of them held by Democrats, even though they only got like 53% of the votes in the last election. Massachusetts, not a single Republican representative. Maryland, not a single Republican representative. And if you go down the chart, and he's got a chart in that post, he's done the math, for every state. And if the two parties were represented in Congress in the same proportions as people voted for them in the 2024 congressional elections, the Democrats would lose 6 seats. And the reason for that is that both parties gerrymander, but the Democrats gerrymander harder.
So when we talk gerrymandering, basically what we're talking about is everybody gets, let's say, a House seat is worth, I think it's 175,000 people, right? So how do we shape the pie so we get the most of our guys in each seat that can lock it in? And that's drawing those lines. Minnesota is a perfect example, right? Our border makes us Minnesota. The first congressional district is almost all of southern Minnesota. We draw these lines up. Minnesota, I was stunned, actually, John, that we were literally like the least gerrymandered of them all. But when you think about it, our judiciary has to do that. We can't do it with our own committees in the House like we're supposed to, so we always end up sending it back to the judiciary to do it. Is that why we're so even, Stephen?
Yeah, that's probably one of the reasons. We've had the districts, whenever there's redistricting, the lines move, as population moves. But the basic outlines of our districts have probably been there for quite a few years. They shift around, but, I think Minnesota is probably a little bit harder state to gerrymander, frankly, than some. Also, we've had the Democratic trifecta here for the last 2 years, but that's unusual. Minnesota is a state where for a number of years, certainly following the last census, we had mixed government, some Republicans, some Democrats, nobody in full control of all three branches. And the states where you get a lot of gerrymandering, are going to be the states where one party controls the House, the Senate, and the governor's mansion, such as you have in states like Illinois and Maryland.
Let me ask you this. Isn't a bigger issue with all of this not the who we count in the census? Like, we always seem to do it during the census, right after the census is done. But the biggest problem today is who counts in the census, right? Donald Trump would like to say, if you're not an American citizen, you don't count in the census. as I understand it, California would lose up to 10 seats if they just didn't count everybody in the state.
I shouldn't even say this because I don't have the constitutional language in front of me, Al. But I
Okay.
believe that what's going on here is that if you look at the Constitution and it talks about the census, it talks about apportionment of the House of Representatives. I think it talks about residents or inhabitants. I don't think it talks about citizens. And I
No.
think that's the reason why historically illegal immigrants have been counted for purposes of apportioning the House of Representatives. And of course, when the Constitution was written, it never occurred to anybody that there would be 15 or 20 million illegal immigrants
Yeah.
in the United States. That thought didn't cross anybody's mind. But I believe that is the reason why historically illegal immigrants have been counted in the census for this purpose. And so Trump and others have got to be advocating for a different interpretation of that constitutional language. And I just don't know. I haven't done the research. I don't
All right.
know whether a different interpretation makes sense or not.
Let me throw a couple of side things off of it. I just want to get your quick opinion. We got some big stuff to talk about. What are your thoughts on Moriarty not running for her seat, Hennepin County District Attorney, their county attorney? That's a big gig. And she's run that pretty strong-handedly for some time. Why the oust? Why is she quitting?
Well, that's the number one law enforcement position in the state of Minnesota. And, Mary Moriarty ran on a soft on crime platform in 2022. She didn't make it a secret. She ran on a platform of, I'm going to go easy on criminals. I'm basically pro-criminal. And I think she's not running because she's probably paid for some polling and realized that after a few years of, soft on crime, people don't like it and she's not going to win. I assume that's what's going on. And I think that when we see now, this is, I think, technically a nonpartisan race, but everybody, Mary Moriarty obviously is a Democrat. And I think that whoever runs for that position in 2026 is not going to run on a soft on crime platform. Now, it may turn out to be soft on crime if he or she wins the election,
but that's not how they're going to run.
I don't think anybody's going to run on that platform again.
And one final, just quick note. I love that thought, by the way. So, of course, the skies have been just darkened by smoke from Canada for weeks on end. The congressional delegation from Minnesota did send a nasty letter to Canada, so I presume they're going to clean that up. Now, if you're a congressman, do you really think you can send a letter to Canada and say, will you please clean up the smoke? Like, that's going to get them to do something?
Well, it's pretty annoying, Al. I mean, a lot of people in the Twin Cities, I don't know what it's like up north. I mean, my Lord, if you live in Hibbing or something, you got to just be coughing every time you go outdoors. It's bad enough all the way down here in the Twin Cities where I am. But what's going on here is lousy forest management, a combination of arson. And I believe there have been 31 arson fires identified in the Canadian woods. But what causes the fires to burn out of control is lousy forest management. A lot of people don't understand, Al. In the United States, acreage burned by wildfires has declined by 80%.
Is that true?
In the
Wow.
20s and 30s. Globally, acres burned by wildfires are at the lowest point in history. And when I say history, I'm talking about pre-human history, right up to the present. There has never been a time where so few acres are burned by wildfires. So in America, when you hear about a fire burning out of control, where is it? Almost always.
No. California.
California. It's in California. Why is that? It's because the environmentalists took over in California and they imposed this regimen where you don't clear out the underbrush. You don't clear out all the dead vegetation. You just let it accumulate. And if you do that, eventually it accumulates until it burns and you can't control the fire. And so I assume, I have not read up on forest management practices in Canada, but knowing who's running that country, I'm pretty sure, Alan, what's going on here is that they're following California style forest management practices. And that's why they can't control their wildfires.
Fair enough. I just wonder if the congressional delegation of Minnesota is going to tip the scale. We should have thought about that earlier.
Probably not.
It seemed a little heady. Got to go to break. When we come back, I really want to find out how bad was the housing stability program for Medicaid in Minnesota that when we find out there's fraud, and this wouldn't be a first time for us, we didn't just look into it. We cut it off. We talk about that with John Hinderaker right after this on the Al Travis Show.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
If it's your turn to host a game, Grandpa's Barbecue suggests you try something different. Put out the perfect barbecue flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. Add it to your ribs, dip the meatballs, or drench your wings in the original flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. It isn't too hot or spicy, fruity or smoky or whatever. Grandpa's Barbecue. Available in select stores and online at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
Easily offended? The Al Travis Show is not for you. The Al Travis Show. All sides are welcome.
We've got him, John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment. John, you guys cover better than anybody all the waste and the fraud that's going on in this state of Minnesota. You got a tracker going on. And the latest one, the Fed government comes up and says, we're going to take a look at this Medicaid program that you guys started that basically paid people to talk to homeless people about getting a house. And Housing Stability Act. They mentioned they want to take a look, and this government shut it down. They didn't look. We didn't take a look under the hood. We turned it off. We didn't do that with Feeding Our Futures. We didn't do it with the autism fraud. We did not do it with the medical transportation fraud. That still goes on today. We stopped this in a heartbeat. How bad does this have to be? This tells me this stinks to high heaven.
Well, Al, Joe Thompson, the acting U.S. attorney, who's driven the prosecutions in the Feeding Our Future case, as well as these other frauds that you just ticked off, doing a tremendous job on behalf of the people of Minnesota. But he has said publicly that this program, which pays people to advise other people about how they might get housing, not to get them housing, but to talk to them about housing, that substantially all of it was fraudulent, that there was hardly any dollar spent on this program that wasn't criminal, fraudulent. And the spending on the program was only around for a few years. I think it was $2 million.
I wrote this down.
Yeah.
They started in 2020, $2.6 million to set this thing up. 1 year later, they requested $21 million, 9 times as much, and they had 8,300 people. Every year it goes up. 2024. $104 million needed, 21,300 people homeless. So we went from $2 million to $104 million, went from 8,000 homeless people to 21.3. John, what metric were they using that said anything was working? We have more homeless people. We've spent $250 million. What is the metric?
Well, the state of Minnesota doesn't ask the question, is this program working?
Well,
they don't even ask the question, are these dollars completely fraudulent and fabricated and made up? They don't even ask that question. My guess is that the people at in the state government looked at that and said, wow, look how much good we're doing. We're doing so much good every year. And of course, when the fraudsters realize that all you have to do is come up with a name, and sometimes they would go and find a homeless person and ask him his name, and then they would put that name on their made up reports, or sometimes they would just make up the name, make up the name of a homeless person, and they would put together an invoice that said, oh, I spent 112 hours counseling this guy on how he might obtain housing, and multiply that by $70 an hour and send a bill to the state of Minnesota, and the state paid the bill. And the fraudsters look at this and they say, I can't believe it. I've died and gone to heaven. Every criminal in America should move to Minnesota and start sending invoices to our state government, and they'll just pay them. I mean, it is unbelievable how corrupt the government of our state is. And that's why they shut this program down, because Joe Thompson said there is virtually nothing here that isn't a fraud. And they don't want that to come to light.
You and I do a half hour every week, and we talk about most of the things that go on here in the state of Minnesota. If you and I had to do, we should try this. Let's just do this. For the next, 150 hours, do a half an hour time. For the next 300 times this whole year, you and I will get together and we'll just discuss options for homeless people and housing in Minnesota. That'll be the only topic we cover, John. We're going to be done in 3.5 minutes. There aren't enough programs. Setting it up, how did they think any human would talk to someone else for 150 hours about the 2-3 homeless programs there are and go get a church? We're done. Yeah. It was set up to fraud.
Yeah, exactly. The program never made any sense. It never made any sense at all. And it was an invitation to these people we know are out there because they've stolen so much money from the taxpayers in Minnesota and also federal taxpayers. Joe Thompson estimates that these frauds have added up to over $1 billion. That's
just this state. Just this state.
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to run out of time without doing this, but one of the things when I got on your website, AmericanExperiment.org, by the way, you should go there. Everybody should take a look at this stuff. Is this event coming up in October? It hit me. First off, graphic guy, nicely done. It's just this warning, dead end side pops up. It cut your attention, obviously. It's your big fall extravaganza. I don't know what you call it. Fall briefing. Can you tell us about that? This looks like it'll be fun.
Yeah, that's right. It's the fall briefing coming up on October 10. You can go to AmericanExperiment.org and click on the tab at the top that says events. It'll give you all the information. You can buy tickets. And our speaker this year is Michael Schellenberger. Extremely interesting guy. He's one of these people. He used to be a lib. His eyes have been opened. He lives in California. He's written a couple of books. He started out as he's an environmentalist, but he started out he's kind of like Bjorn Lomborg of America, pointing out I'm an environmentalist, but this stuff that you're doing doesn't make any sense. He's written a book about the downfall of the city of San Francisco under left-wing management, and he's twice now run for governor of California. And so as you say, the title of this program is going to be Warning Dead End, and his talk is going to be about how California has gone off the rails and how it's devastated the standard of living of people in California, and how the last thing we Minnesotans ought to do is copy California. And as you know, Al, this is some of our politicians, everything they do in California, they say, great idea, let's do it in Minnesota.
Absolutely. That's going to be great. That comes up in October. You got time to take a look. Go to AmericanExperiment.org. Take a look around. John, I love having you on the show. Thank you very much for doing this with me, my friend. Appreciate you.
Great to be with you, Al.
He is John Hinderaker, president of American Experiment. Go to AmericanExperiment.org.
Think about it. Now that school's out for the summer, how are